Hello everyone, my name is Katie Hatch and I work with Dr. Peter Kochunov at the University of Maryland. In the last video we went over how to log on to the MPRC system, and this video will be going over how to use the PBS cluster engine. In the previous video we went over how to log into the MPRC system and to the MPRC cluster, but now we'll talk about how to submit batch jobs onto our cluster. In doing so, we will talk about the first example batch job, date and time. A job is a process that the user wishes to be carried out. It is not usually one command, likely multiple, and will generally use a good amount of memory to process. Thus, the submission requires a listing of what the process should do, the applications to use, inputs, outputs, the amount of memory the job should be given, and the number of CPUs the load should be distributed over. This is why we use a cluster to increase the efficiency of the process. A job scheduler takes care of the job once you submit it into the computer cluster. Here at the MPRC, we use the Torque Job Scheduler, which comes from the Portable Batch System PBS project. It manages the cluster and allows everything to be balanced out smoothly between the computer nodes. It needs a very specific set of commands, called PBS, that set up the environment. So, that is what we will go over in this video. Now, we'll make the first simple PBS script, which is time and date, and it will just print out the time and the date of the job. So first, we'll open up our favorite editor. So now we'll be making a simple PBS script that prints out the date and time, so please try and follow along in your terminal. First, open up your favorite text editor. I prefer vi.pbs. And the first line of every script needs to be the shebang, which tells the terminal to use bash. So we'll start with hash, exclamation, and bash. Next, we need to set up the environment, and so to do this, we use the hashtag PBS. Any other string starting with the hash mark will be seen as a comment. So, we need to set up our environment, and we use the option in first to set up the name of the environment, which here we'll do time and date. Next, we'll do the number of nodes, which in this case, we probably only need one really. We can do up to 26. There are 26 nodes in this computer, but you really don't need to use all 26 for this one. And we'll set up the processors per node, which in this case we'll use 2 just for fun. There are 76 processors in each node. Please do not use 76 for this simple project. Also, using the option L, we'll do wall time, which just tells the computer how long at most this project should be running. We'll do 1 minute. We could do less, but I like to give it 1 minute. And then we can also set up queue, which is very important. It tells where to send this project, and it will be batch for our computer cluster. And then we can also tell the script to send us an email when the project aborts, begins, or ends. And of course, you need to also attach your email. Now we can start on the actual commands that will be used for this job. You need to make sure that you always set up your environment first, as after you use a normal command without the hash mark, the PBS will be seen as a comment. So always do your PBS environment at the start. Now for us, we'll start with our current directory. Tutorial is what I'm in. And then we can add date into a new file, which we'll call run at. And then we can add our host name so we see where it's run, which we will append into run at. Then we can echo a phrase if we wanted to. Let's do completed at Oops. And we need to also append that into run at. And then we can one more time add date so that we see when it was finished and how long it took. And there is your first script. So we'll save it. And now, since we're already in the head node, we can use the command q sub, and then time and date, PBS, and that will submit it into our computer cluster. And as you can see, that will be its ID. So if you want to see what is happening, we can do qstat, and we could either use the ID of it to just see what's going on with ours, or we can use A to see all. So as you can see, this is the status right here, the S column, and our job is already completed. You will always find if it's been run or if it's in the queue here. And so of course run is R, and you'll see a Q for if it's queued still. So let's see what has happened. So let's list out what's in ours, and we'll cat run at. And as we can see, it was completed in 1 second on the MPRC node 1. And there you go, you've run your first batch job. So now you can go and try it yourself, and pause the video, and we'll see you in just a minute. Hopefully you have successfully attempted a few batch jobs, so we'll move on to a bit more practical jobs. You're likely to be using FSL when you're here at the MPRC, so let's see how to incorporate those commands into a batch job script. Before you can start creating your new FSL batch jobs, though, you'll need to have some data to work with. So a great place to find some data to work, some practice data, is the FSL course. There is a link above this video that will take you to this page, and you can come and download this data for Unix practicals, and then put it in your files and move it into whatever file you're working on to make your scripts, so that you can follow along a little bit better. So we'll start out the same as last time in your favorite text editor. We'll name it FSL example. And again, we need to make sure we start off with the shebang. And our PBS environment is going to be very similar this time. So name, FSL commands, nodes, we'll just do 1 again, and just 2 ppn, because really don't need a lot for this one either. Wall time, also very short, we can just do 1 minute again. Oops. And again, we're going to be putting it into batch, so q batch. And again, we can email it to we can get email notifications. I hope that you checked your email last time to see if they actually came through. I saw mine, so that's good. And now we can start with our script. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to echo a phrase. We'll be hopeful. Hopefully this works. And we're going to echo that, and we're going to write out the full pathway this time, because we'll be using 2 different pathways. So in my case, it's data, Brutus data, excuse me. Brutus data 1, that's very important, it's 1 here. And then your username, and then I have this in tutorials. And then our new FSL out.text. And then we'll open up our working directory, which will be data, but this time Brutus data 0. Again, very important, make sure you get that. It'll be in freeware, and then FSL, our version is 5.0.11, and then bin, which will have all of the commands that we'll need. And then we have to source it, so we'll source from Peter FSL, again 5.0.11.sh. And now we can use the FSL directory that we've set up to go to bin and get the command that we want to use, which in this case will be remove extension. And we're going to be removing the extension from an image that I already put into my tutorial folder, so image.nigz. And we want this to be written out into the output like we had earlier. So we want it into, again, our FSL out. So then we'll, just to make sure it goes all the way through, we'll echo another phrase, being very optimistic this time. It worked, hopefully. Again, that will go into our FSL out. All right, and so this is your first FSL batch job. And if we've done everything right, then we can submit it with the qsub command again. And again, we know our ID from it. And so this time, we'll just qstat the ID. Oops, that wasn't it. And there it is. Oh, already completed again. However, if we wanted to get rid of this batch, we could use the qdel command and type out the ID name, but it's already done and we want to see what we got out anyway. So let's make sure that we did in fact get an output, FSL out.text. So let's see what it is. Oh, and it did work. See, you have image 1, but we don't have the extension for it. So congratulations, there was your first FSL batch script. But this was a very basic example, and so I would suggest that you try out a few other scripts by yourself and spend some time Googling and learning more. One great place to start is the Adaptive Computing Twerk Overview, Submitting and Managing Jobs, which you can find through this link, and starting at the FSL tutorial that was mentioned earlier. So go out and try and make your own batch jobs. Have fun!